I begin, as always, in the matchless, glorious, and precious name of the living Savior, Jesus Christ. I'm just going to do a look back at 2019 and a look back at 2020. To start, I'm just going to give all of you a little recap of the year. Opening of the year, I spent 3 days working at a tax company in downtown Baltimore, but that didn't pan only for 3 days, and that only panned out, and that didn't last because I didn't have the experience for that. In February, I worked for 1 day at a juvenile delinquent center for 1 day on behalf of a temp agency called Premier Source Staffing, and then and then on Valentine's Day, I began my longest tenure, arguably my longest tenure, began at the Department of Social Services in Towson. It lasted the longest from then till April 19th. I felt like that was going to be my end-all be-all job, but it didn't last. Sadly. May, I didn't work anywhere. I just got interviewed. And in June, another temp agency called me, and I was later soon hired to work on behalf of the temp agency at the University of Maryland School of Nursing as an admin assistant. It went from June, the second half of June, to the 19th of July. Yeah. August, I spent the penultimate week working at the bookstore at Towson University for the incoming students. September, no job. October, I worked on behalf of Robert Half at the NAACP for about 5 days on the Monday of the second week. I was let off from that job. I lost that job. November, I worked on behalf of Account Temps, another division of Robert Half, at a accounting firm, and unfortunately that did not last. That lasted from Friday from Friday, November 1st to the 5th of November, a Tuesday, unfortunately. And now I am currently working part-time as a seasonal sortation associate at Amazon. So yeah. And so yeah. Basically, one of the things that God has been taught me this year is peace. Having peace. And I need to always be trusting in Him. And the peace that passes beyond understanding. The same peace that caused our Lord to sleep even while there was a storm going on. And the peace that was driving Peter to sleep, even though he was looking at execution. Yeah, that sort of peace. And part of the way to that peace is not to be dwelling on your past sins, because that's something I struggled with this year. I struggled a lot with my past sins, and I just wishing I could. I just needed to remember that God has covered them with it. Christ covered with His blood that He blotted out, the blood that He shed on Calvary. I just need to keep looking forward, keep my eye, not let the past be a hitching post. Let it guide me, but not use it as a thing. Use it as a means to hitch. So, and also it means that also means not being consumed with fear and worry with the future. Because there are times where I felt like I made a mistake while working at places, namely my time at the Department of Social Services, where it just felt like, oh crap, I might get fired, but it almost consumed me for the entire weekend. Fortunately, I just needed to I had to remind myself to trust in God that all will be right. Part of that peace means you need to just Know that God is in control. Yes, do your best to apply, do work hard, but leave the results up to Him, because He's sovereign and He has your best interest at heart. Yeah, and also I need to trust in Him to provide for me. Have peace that He will provide for me, provide the means to pay off these loans, because I really actually have $100,000 in student loans to pay. So I really need prayer that I will get something. That's why I got got something called Patreon. I will put the link in the description so that way you can be a supporter. I hope you'll become a supporter so that way the sooner I get out of the so that way I can get out of paying these loans sooner, and pray that I find a job as well. Pray that I find a job as well. Yes. And I also just need to keep in mind, just thank God that He's allowed me to have some full-time jobs and also work some places, because I really struggled last year in 2018 after losing my full-time job at Amazon as a fulfillment associate. Thankfully, I worked at some full-time places. And here are my New Year's resolutions for 2020. My New Year's resolutions for 2020. First New Year's resolution for 2020 is to pay off these $100,000. I know some people are thinking that's nigh impossible to do. That's nigh impossible to do, to pay off $100,000 within a year. But I worship a God. Keep in mind, I worship a God who can make a way out of no way. So I have no doubt that this is possible with God in the mix. And that, once again, you can make my New Year's resolution, meaning that resolution, possible if you could subscribe to my Patreon. I will put the link in the description. Number 2, it's to get an apartment. I know that was my New Year's resolution for this year. It didn't come to pass, but I desire to make that thing come to pass this upcoming year. And the last one, to pray more outside of my quiet time. I just feel like one of the things I regret about 2019 is I didn't pray enough. And I sense that every time there was a tragedy, I prayed. I prayed for the people, for the victims, the shooter, the relatives of the victims, and the like. And I feel like God was just trying to get me to pray, talk to Him, and depend on Him, and make sure I'm focused on more than just my own affairs. So yeah, I need to pray more. Just need to be more concerned about the well-being of other people, and moreover, I need to be more reliant, making it clear that I am reliant on Him. So yeah, that's all. That's what God has been showing me. That's the overarching view of what God has been teaching me, how He's grown me, what He showed me, and yeah, that's all. Happy New Year, everyone.